She liked my maroon and green.
It isn't muted.
What
You
hers
mute it?
was out there in the
Okay.
hall. What is that, Miss Savage? Sorry, yeah. Come on, baby. It's Kim. She's not Tammy.
Let me close.
Yeah, I have to. I have to make sure I charge her.
It's not happy.
Now, see, now.
Try the other one.
Let's see.
Yeah, that's what they say. But
I was gonna say, I hadn't seen it yet.
I haven't
Yes.
All right, we're good. All right, this time I'd like to call the September 14th meeting of the White County School Board for our Policy Committee to order. Appreciate everyone being here, and we have a couple items that we need to address this evening, and as part of our monthly business. First thing on policy, we have policy 4700. That is in regards to our testing program. If you look in your packet, it was provided for you was a policy with the highlighted changes that we need to address, and then also with that was the draft that administration put together defining some of the areas that we needed to address. And so that has been in your packet. You've had a chance to look at that. Contact Mr. Drombarger if had any questions. In the testing program's draft policy, as you can see that you've highlighted the areas in which we've made the modifications to be in compliance with the updated changes to that.
Yes, that's correct.
Anything you'd like to inform us on that, Mr. D?
On 4700, that is
Yes.
just the state has the General Assembly's passed a law now that will allow students to basically CLEP out of certain courses. So this policy's been modified by the high school to provide the list of courses that will provide that type of test, and then we have provided some change the language there at the end that's been highlighted. So these are the courses that students can take and test out of for credit.
So just to reiterate what Mr. Stromberger said, this applies to high school. It applies to students that wish to try to test out of classes that are listed, and the high school is established what those classes are, and so we will that will be available to our students. And they will be able, if they test out, they will be able to receive course credit for those upon passing the exam.
That's in green, right on that second.
Yes,
policy
sir.
that's
Yes, sir.
located?
That's where the modifications to policy were, and there are no other changes to that, were there?
No.
Okay. One thing I did notice in looking through that policy that, just for clarity, it may be typographical, but in the weighting TCAP scores, it has items 2 and items 3 have been stricken through. Was that intentional, or was that just oversight?
No, that's just oversight. That'll be corrected when it goes. Actually, well, these only apply to high schools, but those are just oversights. Those will be corrected in
Okay.
the final.
So
the SBA.
Okay, all right, so we'll correct that. So any questions on policy that's being proposed to us tonight? Okay, any reason why we would not need to bring this forward to our full board meeting? So this would be coming forward as first reading?
Yes,
Correct
that's
on these?
correct.
Okay, so this would be a first reading policy change coming out of committee tonight?
Is it imperative that it be put into effect immediately, or can it wait another month?
It's not imperative. We don't anticipate this. It won't be to the second semester that this would be available. That the tests still have to be created, so we have some time for it to be in first reading.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on 4700? Okay, if not, the next item I had on our agenda as far as, policy goes, and that is the draft of the White County School Board Representative Policy. Based on our discussion that we had our last meeting, we chose to use Germantown's policy as model policy, and so went through and tried to craft the language for this policy that that reflected our desires, and our desire was to have two non-voting student board representatives on the positions available, with the intent of one being a rising senior, the other one being filled by a rising junior, and then allowing that junior to serve 2 terms if he or she wished. So that policy's been in your packet, and I sent an email reminder out asking everybody to review that policy. This time we can have some discussion on that and get your thoughts and feedback.
Mr. Young, I do have a couple of comments on that. I want to say first, I appreciate the work that you put into that, drafting up that policy. We went out and I reached out to TSBA to find, the school districts that were utilizing the student board members and talked to a few of those folks, and they all seem to really enjoy having those students on their board. And then I spoke with Mr. Wilson today, talking about this policy, and he said that they are already in the works of, got names, nominations, and teachers are talking, to students, and he's excited about it. The high school is excited about it, to be able to have some student representation on this board, even though they're a non-voting member, but it also gives them some leadership responsibilities, and gets those folks involved in the business end of school. I like the policy. I like what you've got drafted up. I would like to see us not just do it on first reading, but forego second reading tonight, so that the high school can go ahead, because they're basically a month behind right now. Go ahead and get those students selected and get those ready to be at our October board meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any other thoughts and comments to this policy?
Mr. Chairman, is this
Yes, sir.
exactly the wording that we have in the packet for Germantown Municipal School District, or we just want to state it differently, or is there something else that I'm not finding?
They're in your packet under 18AI, drafts of White County School Board Student Representative Policy. It's what noted as draft 1. It's just a Word document. There's no headers or anything on that would make it look like our normal policy, but it is in principle a model after the Germantown policy, with the exception of they only allow 1 student, and where we chose to make it a two students able to serve in that capacity. So if you need to take some time to look through that, compare the two, please. We have time, and we can do that. That's no sense to try to rush it through.
I think just basically the changes that I can see are just eliminating where theirs says Houston High School and their Germantown Municipal School District's staff and board members. We've moved it to to represent White County. Mr. Howard, is all I can see that's really different, and adding the extra member.
The one part of this policy that because it wasn't in Germantown's policy because it didn't apply, but on the first paragraph it says the board establishes 2 advisory non-voting student board representative positions. 1 position will be filled by a rising senior. The second position will be filled by a rising junior, and a rising junior may serve a second year during his or her senior year.
Well, it sounds good. All I'm finding is Germantown.
Does anybody else look in your directory, and it would be under 18AI, drafts of White County School Board Representative Policy.
How are they choosing the student?
That would be, that's at the discretion of the high school principal or designee.
So
They'll go through an
according to-
application process.
According to Mr. Wilson and the conversation I had with him this afternoon, their counselors, their administration, and Mr. Brown, what's his first name? Keith Brown.
is the department chair of the social studies department.
Okay, so he's relying on them to provide nominees on a nomination sheet, and then they're supposed to hopefully meet next week.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Young, I didn't.
No, that's fine. That's I appreciate you reaching out to him for clarity on that. That's valuable. One thing that that just want to bring your attention, that this 1-year term will be September through May, so we're not asking the students to serve during the summer, and it also gives them, the administration, chance to go through the application selection process in August. So that would be give them some time, and then we don't want this to be a burden for the students.
Right, correct. I understand.
They may not be as enticed to come during the summer months.
I agree.
All right. So any other questions or comments on the draft of the student board representative policy?
Mr. Chairman, I haven't found it yet, but I'm in full agreement with this idea, this concept, that I think it can just be a great addition to this board, a great asset for our young adults to get to experience, and I would look forward to it and say, hey, let's embrace it and go with it as quickly as we can, as correctly.
Ms. Stone?
I think it's great.
Okay.
Oh, I think it's
All right,
awesome.
Ms. Fowler. All right, then what we'll do is we'll bring that out of committee as a recommendation in our full board meeting, and then we can set a motion to implement that for our policy for a foregoing second reading. Did I miss a?
Yeah, we're just correcting.
Are
some
you correcting some
grammatical errors?
Okay,
that you
all right,
have.
that's fine. I would appreciate that. We want it to be grammatically correct. All right.
It wasn't me in it.
All right. Okay, so that gets first two items. Next item on my list for policies was Mr. Howard would like to revisit policy 12021, proposed change to that. So, Mr. Howard, I'd allow you to speak to that and what you have in mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it also in these documents that I submitted? Because I submitted a copy of what I have on my ideas, because I didn't see it in my information packet either.
I did not see that in my email, so all I saw was the request to have it on with a language change.
Well, I left a copy like this right here at the Board of Education on the 30th of August. So if you want to take just a minute.
Sure.
It's line item 6 up there.
Okay.
That's just an idea. But as we discussed before, my goal was just to recognize the school board and supporting their communities. And line item 6 under my relations to my community, I like the verbiage that we heard at the Summer Law Conference. I will serve as a guardian of the public's trust and prioritize the interest of my community. And that's just an idea of where it will be placed in our policy 1.2021, Boardmanship Code of Conduct. And I think it's self-explanatory. You're for it or you're against it. So.
I'm sorry, Mr. Howard. I did see that sentence, that change. I didn't know if there was anything else involved with that, but that was just that one line change. So I did see that.
Okay, what about it?
I passed it down.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So Mr. Howard is presenting to us about adding a line to the relation to my community that reflects our responsibility to the community as guardians of, how did you term that?
Of the public's trust.
Guardians of the public's trust. So I will take this moment and we'll just go around the table and give people the opportunity to reflect on that comment and share some thoughts. So, Mr. Howard, since that was your proposal, I'll start with I'll give you the opportunity to go last. Okay.
Okay.
So, Ms. Stone.
I like the line about being held accountable to the community and guardianship of the community, however he had that stated. I think that's good language.
Mr. Howard, can I see that paper just a second? I'm going to direct y'all to our board agenda. I'm going to, just for clarity, I'm going to go down here on the very bottom of that, on page 2. I'm going to just type this sentence in, give you a chance to reflect on that for just a moment. So if you go, most of you would have the board agenda pulled up. I'm just going to put that in the bottom, right under Mr. Howard's line item on the policy agenda.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Young?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Howard, where did that come from? I felt I wasn't paying attention when you started there.
Which part?
Where that language came from? Was that from TSBA?
That was at our summer law conference. It may have been on Saturday. I don't know if you were there when one of the speakers coined that phrase, that line. I wish I could remember that.
I do remember that now. Okay, thank you.
Does everyone see that in their agenda on the very bottom of that file? If you look on the electronic file,
Yes.
can you see that, Ms. Stone? Are you able to see that?
Yes, I see it. Okay, yes. Yeah, I seen that earlier when I was looking at it, but now I can't get back to it. But I'll find it.
So, all right, Ms. Fowler, how do you want to speak to that proposed change?
I like the wording of it myself. As the guardian of the public's trust, I agree with it.
Okay, go down to Ms. Haston.
I don't mind that verbiage being in there, but I feel like that should be a general understanding when you took an oath for this position.
Okay, Mr. McDonald. Did everybody hear Ms. Howard?
No.
Ms. Hastings.
I'm sorry, Ms. Haston. Ms. Haston. Could you repeat that, please?
Well, I'm going to kind of piggyback off what she said, and the verbiage of that language is great. It would be a great addition to our policy, but I think we've got to always remember that that's what we were elected for. That I think it's an untold thing that we were elected to be the guardians of our community. So I mean, I think it's a great idea to have that in there, and whoever penned that at TSBA Summer Law, kudos to them. I might have added a little bit to Ms. Hastings.
Okay. So my thoughts on that language being added to the policy. I do think our service as elected officials, and I can't remember the oath that we took, but I think that that language it is implied as as in the position that we serve. My problem with this language is the prioritize the interest of my community, because while we do take that into consideration for the decisions and policies that we bring up, it could cause a conflict if there was an issue between community and best interest of our students. It could create a conflict there as far as somebody coming back and saying, well, you're supposed to prioritize the interest of my community, yet our role as elected officials, our responsibility is the school district. And while we certainly keep the community in mind, we could find ourselves getting pulled into situations and that may arise in the community and pull us in that might be a distraction from what our sole responsibility is. And our sole responsibility is to oversee the district and the well-being of our students. So that's my position on that. Again, it's not that would have any problem accepting the responsibility of serving as a guardian of the public trust and try to earn the public trust through the actions that we take. But I'm not sure if that's effective in policy. I think that's something that we commit to in our role of service. I don't see how that enhances the policy and what our responsibilities are as board members. So that's not trying to detract from take away from a good statement. It's just trying to look at it from the perspective of how that applies to policy. So, Mr. Howard, I'd give you the final on that.
Thank you. And I want to say up front also, I respect everyone's opinions. I do. I've been told that I'm not empathetic nor sympathetic. I can understand totally, but I still disagree. A lot of times as people sitting here, as any elected official, you get sort of lulled into the concept that, hey, I belong to, my responsibilities are to the system, or to the policies, or to the board, or to the state, or to the federal government right there, instead of the people that elected you. Our goals, first goal in mind, should always be to the people that elected us. The school board did not put us here, the people did. The NEA, the TEA, the TSBA, the director of schools did not put us here, the people did. And if you really get down to the brass tacks of it, if there's a conflict between what a community really, really, really wants to push, they have the power. We should think of them first. Our founding fathers always gave the power to their communities, always did. And if we don't believe that or trust that, they can vote us out. So in just putting this simple line in there, it's just another way of saying, hey, let's remember that our first responsibility is to the communities. Now, I understand that any given time, an individual can be so radical that can come up here wanting issues that we can have empathy with, but no, we're not going to do it. Okay? We can have understanding with, and we understand why that would encourage one single person's approval of us, but we do have to look at the whole. But when it comes down to the bottom line right here, you either believe that the people elected here to put you here to do their bidding, or you're here to serve the policies. And so that's why I would like to see that language put in there, because I am a confident, full-time believer that the community is the one that put me here, and that's who I owe my loyalty and my trust to. We are guardians of the public trust. Why would the TSBA allow that speaker to come for the summer law conference right there and make that statement right there? His entire speech was over our responsibility to the communities. But we seem to forget that sometimes. So not only would I personally like to see this, sometime or another when a board recognizes how important this is right here, I'd like to see this code of conduct signed by every school board member every year. Just as, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep them in mind first. But I might not should have brought that up, so y'all might be scared saying, hey, if Dwayne gets it in there right now, we'll have to sign it later.
So,
That's way on down the road.
I got a quick question right there, Mr. Sherman. Would we be better off to take it from the singular community and make it as a communities? I mean, we serve the entire county of White County. I don't just serve Dole, and Ms. Fowler doesn't just serve the north end of the county. She's responsible for all 3,800 or 4,000 kids that we have in this school system. So that covers from the Van Buren County line to the Warren County line to the Putnam County line to the Cumberland County line, you know, and everywhere in between. So, yeah, I represent District 5, just like Mr. Howard's got 4. But my goal has got to be to look out for every student in every community and what's best for every community. So, would we be better off to take it from just community and then, you know, make it communities?
Hey, Mr. McDonald, I agree with what you said 100%, and I would be glad to see that say communities.
Go up and look at line 2 of that same policy. And is it the boardmanship code of conduct? Yeah. It says, I will represent at all time the entire school community and refuse to represent special interests or partisan politics. So that's already in our policy. Line item 2.
So you want to change community in line item 2 to communities?
I'm fine with that.
so,
Would you like to add to in line item 2, and guardian of the public's trust? Right after school communities and guardian of the public's trusts?
Well, I think grammatically, probably, if I'm not an English teacher, but is that the right spelling of that? Would it make it
so,
any different in line 2 to put communities there?
so
Change it to-
so if I could just for clarity, we are a board that serves one community, and that is the community of White County. And so if we're not a district that would bleed over into Putnam County or DeKalb County or another county. So I'm not sure that changing community to communities plural would be in our interest, because I think pretty consistently throughout policy we're referred to as one community, and that one community being White County. I mean, we are the White County Board of Education, and so we're only representing one county.
And Mr. Drumbar just pointed something out to me. If we change it in that one line, we're going to have to change it in every other line that's got community in it throughout the policy. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Drumbarger is not objecting. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah.
There would need in policy, there would need to be consistency throughout on how you refer to yourself, and I'm thinking that the communities plural is not representative of what we are. We're a board of one community, and that's community of White County.
Well, in that case, then if we add line 6 and put this in there, then that would honestly be fine to me, because if we're determining that White County is one big community, and I agree with that 100%, then that would fit right in with that policy. I don't foresee any problem with it.
So, could I ask board members a question? Then how do you objectively prove that we are guarding our community's trust, possessive community's trust, because we're from the standpoint of the way we conduct our business, we are conducting it in public, and that's how we're instructed to go. So I mean that's an element of trust. But what I'm trying to figure out is, if you do that, how do you how do you objectively prove that, you know, we are guarding the trust of the community?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, they'll let you know. How many times have we seen people come to school board members and object vehemently, and the school board still rule against them? And vehemently come back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later, vehemently object, and the school board still doesn't listen to them.
But that's not a trust issue. That's having to make a decision on a policy or an issue or things like that. I don't understand how we are going to be guardians of the public's trust outside of what we're doing now with transparency and open meetings and things of that nature. I'm having a hard time getting my head around that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll say one more thing. You came up with 40-something policy changes that we didn't even read, that we just implemented in 2 meetings. And now we're scrutinizing the far out of this one line right here. You're either for it or you're against it. You're either for supporting the people or you're in favor of supporting policies. That's the bottom line. And I would ask for a roll call vote.
Well, we're not. So you want to bring this forward in the. You want to bring this forward from committee to the regular meeting, and with that change, and then you want to roll call vote on that.
That's correct.
So, Ms. Stone?
I believe that, like you say, we've been elected to represent, you know, all of White County, but we specifically do represent certain areas of the county. But I think that people like to know how we're spending the money, and I think that would be showing how we would be showing trust of how we're spending their tax dollars.
Okay, but we're doing that now in our meeting.
But that just basically states it. Is what way, only way I'm looking at it. It just states that we're basically ethically going to spend their money wisely. That's
Okay.
kind of the way I took it. I don't know if that's.
Okay.
And like you said, if you know, your district that actually voted you in, elected you, don't like the way we're spending their money or doing their policies or whatever, they will have the option to vote you out of your little specific community. But we do serve the whole county, but there is definitely, if you're District 6, District 7, District 4, whatever, that is a community in itself, because that's where you was elected from. Like if you was running for a county office, that would be the whole community. Because everybody would have voted for you, but not everybody votes for me in District 6 except District 6 people. So I would think there is definitely, I know we serve all of White County. We got to look at White counties as a whole for what we do, but we do represent each little community because them's the only ones that's where our name's on the ballot for. Like if we was running for trustee, the whole county would elect us.
But if you're running as a commissioner, only your district.
Yes.
So it's.
That's where I think the community went into that verbiage, you know, because not everybody in the county can vote for me. Not everybody in the county can vote for you. It's just your community or your district.
But as school board members, we
look at the whole, yes, but
we don't look at it just because we're representatives of a district. We all participate in the promotion of the school district.
Yes.
Correct. So it is not multiple communities, it is one community.
Well, it's all of White County, yes.
Correct. One community,
White
right?
County,
One White County
but-
community.
But I'm still saying that if the people in your area don't like you, they can vote you out. not-
Sure. Absolutely, absolutely. That's where the public ultimately, the public has the final say.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's where they have they're participating in electing representatives to go serve and
For their
serve
needs.
and do a job that they may or may not be interested in doing.
Right, but they voted me in to represent their needs and what they think our community needs as far as the school board's representative. Is the way I look at it.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, the people, say in Bondycroft or somewhere else, they might not have the same needs as the people in Cassville or whatever.
Okay. All right, Ms. Fowler.
What exactly is this sentence gonna say? Have we redone it?
No, it's
Is
being,
that what we're-
it's being proposed that it's being proposed that we add that to policy, 12021.
Right, but I'm saying, just like it is, cause.
That's my understanding,
Okay,
correct,
'cause
Mr.
we had a
Howard?
discussion about changing the way community was, so.
Is that correct, Mr. Howard?
What was your question, Mr. Young?
Ms. Fowler asked if if we were talking about making sure what the verbiage was that would be going in. And I just typed in what you put on your sheet, and it's in the second page of the agenda.
I'm looking at it, I have a hard copy right there.
Okay.
I think what we're disagreeing with, whether we're gonna give our loyalty to the community, or we're gonna give our loyalty to, whatever, government policies or dictatorship or whatever.
Well,
I think that's
under,
the problem we're having right now as far as the discussion.
I don't think so, Mr. Howard. The policies are just the byproduct of what we do. I mean, we put policies in place for provide guidance for the district, and if we put them in place, then obviously we have to abide by those policies. But I mean, that doesn't mean you're putting your trust in policy. You're just using the policies what they're intended to, and that's provide guidance for conducting business and how the district operates. So I don't think anybody here is disagreeing that we are not mindful and respectful of the fact that the public has put a great deal of trust in us to serve in this capacity, and just want to make sure that if we're going to change policy from this standpoint, that we make sure we understand the verbiage that's being presented, and we put it in there for purpose.
May I add one more comment, Mr. Chairman?
Could I finish up down here, because I was going down the line for this. So, Ms. Fowler, that is what's being discussed.
Okay.
Adding that to policy.
All right, I am with Ms. Stone on this. Yes, we are, which I have not been yet, but elected, in a certain district. But we are there for the whole White County, the whole community, all the children. It doesn't matter if they're at Dole, at Bondycroft, at Northfield. So, I'm in agreement.
Okay, Mr. McDonald, if you've had a chance to hear discussion.
We're already doing it. I mean, it's already there. It's already in there. Line item 2 is already there. I mean, this is just gonna be reiterating what's in line 2. And like you said there a minute ago, I would be in favor of signing this every year. That says that I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna hold you and Ms. Fowler and Ms. Stone, Mr. Howard, I'm gonna hold them all accountable for everything that's in this, and I want them to do me the same way. So we can add it, but I think it's already there. I think it's already in line 2.
For the record, I was the first he was looking at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
was a little confused
I think
there.
we all have to hold each other accountable for everything that happens in our school district, from top to bottom. That's why we do an evaluation of Mr. Drombarger every year, because we're holding him accountable for the test scores and the progression that we make in this school district. So I think, yeah, we need to hold each other accountable. And like I said, we can put it in there. I'm not against it. I mean, I would vote to put it in there, but I think we're already doing that in line item 2. It's just, it doesn't have the guardians of the public's trust in that line.
Okay. Ms. Haston?
I feel exactly the same way Jason does. It doesn't matter to me if it's in there or not, because we're elected by the people to serve the entire district, the entire community, not just one district. We're here for all people, and we took an oath, and that, as like he said, it's already on line 2. Line 4, you represent the board of the district to promote the interest and support of everyone. I mean, I don't really understand why we would add something extra, but I'm fine with that, just because we should be doing that already, and if we're not, then we've got an issue.
Okay. Mr. Howard, give you the opportunity for final comment.
Mr. Chairman, we're beating this to death right here, and there wasn't any meat in it. It's plainly spoken, plainly simple right there. The question is, and I agree with Mr. McDonald, I love the way he put it down there. We do need to hold each other accountable and responsible. That's been one of my goals ever since I sat on this board right here. I saw where we weren't allowing to let the people speak, and we had it in our policies where we were supposed to have a sign-up sheet. We weren't allowing individual board members to add things to the agenda. And we reread those line items in our policy right there. So the more you put them in our policy, the more the good things you put in the policy, the more that you read them again, the more we hold each other accountable, the more likely we won't forget them, the more likely we will do them, and we will earn the community's trust as a county as a whole, because there's certain parts of this community and individual communities right there that do not trust this board yet. And my simple goal is to try to encourage those people that, hey, we're working for you, we're trying to get there, and I hope they turn and support us. That's been my goal the whole time. That's a simple reason that I'm asking for this.
Okay, so what I think I'm hearing from committee is, consensus is that this would be pulled forward to the regular board meeting for policy change on first reading. And my understanding is that Mr. Howard will be calling for a roll call vote at that time, so we'll have to do that separate, and it will not be able to allow that to come in to vote that with other policies, so we'll have to do them individually on that.
Will we be adding it or
Pardon?
will we add in line 6, or will we be just changing the line 2 to add what extra? How is it actually on?
Well, Mr. Howard, how do you feel about that?
We went to line 2 to make this cap over again and decided, well, we're going to put that in there. Do we know the English language to put it in there? We're going to change community to communities. And just to be quite honest with you, that line came straight from TSBA as it was written. I simply called.
Okay, you're just being asked a question for clarity, okay?
I called up there and asked them, I said, if this board was interested in using that line in public trust right there, adding it to our policy, where would you put it and how would you say it? And that's what they sent me back. That's why I have a copy of it, just like this right here. That came straight from Tennessee School Board Association.
Okay, well, that's fine, Mr. Howard. The question was just raised if where we were going to put it. So I'm just trying to get clarity for that.
I'm trying to encourage you that this is not just a willy-nilly suggestion to word it and put it right where it's at. So that would be my suggestion right there.
To add line 6.
Word it exactly the way it is, add line 6.
It'll have to come out of new business. It'll have to be added to new business. It would have to be added to new business tonight, because that would be a policy change.
Okay, so come in and then we'll recommend that this be considered in new business for policy. So everybody, we're clear what we're bringing forward. Adding line 6 as it's written, and coming out of committee with the recommendation, we add that to a new business line for first reading. Okay, so we all on the same page on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Well, that's all the policy items we have on the agenda. Mr. D, could you just give us a synopsis of the budget amendments and transfers and what we'll be looking at there?
The vast majority of those are just carryover from line items from last year, so carryover budgets in a lot of title funds or federal funds, so titles 1, 2, 4, 3. So just carry money that's left over from last year's budget is carried over into this year. There's also money for this year's after-school programs, 21st Century Community Learning Centers. So funding those, that money has come in and being placed in our budget. So I believe that's the majority of them. And then approval of the carryover of ESSER funds that was left over from last year, bringing that over. So it looks like all of these are just carryover grants, money that was from the fiscal year 23 moving to 24, with the exception of the money that's being used for the after-school programs, which comes in annually as well.
Okay, so after-school programs money, or that's federally funded money, and that's those monies have come in, so we'll be approving the language to go in, the entries to go in to get that money at the right place, and note that, and then be dealing with the carryover funds that we have from last year's budget. So particularly pay attention to ESSER 3.0, the public plan and those monies, because we'll be doing an addendum to our plan for ESSER 3 funds, and we just have to update that annually if those funds have not been expended. And so then after that, we would approve the transfer carryover of those funds. Is that correct?
Yes, this just bringing over what was left over in ESSER 3 to this fiscal year, and the majority of that money is going to the Bondycroft project.
Okay. All right.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So what is all other expenses?
On that particular,
She's looking at the budget
You're
from
looking at the
from
Am I
Mr.
looking at
financial
the wrong
report.
page?
Mr. Martin.
We were talking about
Oh, okay.
the
Oh, this
amendment
one.
transfers.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I'll ask
You
that
can-
when it comes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's fine. No, it's no
Thank
problem.
you.
I do have one question on the ESSER 3.0. Is there a set time frame that all of that money has to be spent, or what's so it all has to be accounted for by June of 2024?
September 24.
Okay, so, and the vast majority of that money is going to the Bondycroft project. Do we foresee that we're gonna have any leftover money out of the Bondycroft project? Okay. I know with the way of material and the cost of goods and the services and everything going up, I didn't think we would have any, but looks good up there though. Bondycroft is coming out of the ground. Looks nice.
Coming to life, right?
It is coming to life.
All right. Well, hopefully that'll be a positive for the community, to our friends up on the mountain. All right. If nothing else, we'll close our committee meeting and adjourn that, and we'll start our regular meeting at here in about 6 minutes. So are you gonna add that? Yeah, you added it there. Okay.
I thought I did.
I don't know, but
I'm all the time doing something. Okay, this ESSER thing. Thank you. What is that?
All right, this time I'd like to call the September 14th meeting of the White County Board of Education to order. If you would, please rise, and Mr. Dwayne Howard will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to take this time to welcome everyone here to our September meeting of the White County Board of Education. I appreciate you being here. Notice that we have staff, we have our administration from middle school, and for Mr. Murray, we say thank you for extending your building, opening it up for our meeting tonight. And we always glad to get out and see our district and what's going on at our schools. Have numerous people from the public here tonight and visitors from out of state, so we'd like to say thank you for joining us tonight and as we conduct the business of the district. Board members, you've had an opportunity to review the agenda for tonight, and just a preview of that will be a normal course of business for the district. We will have some approvals, get some updates, have some committee reports, and then also per policy have the opportunity for public comment. So that is a preview of what our agenda looks like tonight. But before we begin, like at this time, if anyone on the board needs to disclose a potential conflict of interest before we consider this agenda, please let it be known at this time.
Mr. Chairman, as I do each and every meeting, I want to make it known that my wife is an educator in the school district, and the comments and the votes that you'll hear from me tonight are solely of my own opinion and none of hers, and represent the best interest of the entire White County School District.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ditto what Mr. McDonald said, and plus also add to it that my wife is oblivious to my votes right here, so please don't ask her to get involved with it, okay?
Okay, so Ms. Sims, let the meeting notes note that Mr. McDonald and Mr. Howard both have spouses that work in the district, but nothing on our proposed agenda seems to be a conflict of that relationship. So this time we need to add an item on the fly here, and I apologize that consent agenda should be approved, include the approval of our agenda for tonight, and also the approval of the minutes from the meeting that was held on August 10th. So Mr. Stromberg is making that addition at this time as we get an approval for our agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
So this time I'll have a motion for approval of our consent agenda, which includes the agenda for tonight. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Fowler. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, that's what we agreed to add on to new business.
Yes, sir. It's down in, that will come out of committee report, and you see it highlighted down there in new business. Correct. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have a very special guest with us tonight, and this is, want to recognize the hard work and oversight of our district staff. We have Miss Brittany Whitehead. She is with NWS meteorologist, or you are a meteorologist?
I am a meteorologist.
She is a meteorologist, and I'll allow her to present who she's with and what she would like to present tonight. So, Ms. Whitehead, I'd like to recognize you at this time.
Thank you. I guess I'll talk to y'all. So I'm here on behalf of the National Weather Service. We're a federal agency. We're nested up under the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So I'm from the Nashville office. We cover all of Middle Tennessee. And one of the programs that we support at the National Weather Service is for people to become for communities, school districts, businesses to become storm ready. And I'm here to recognize the entire school district, all of the schools, the principals, the staff, your local emergency management, for the work they've done to take their preparedness just a step further as far as the weather safety goes. So this program requires all of your schools to have a working weather radio, and for all of your schools to have a plan in place of how they're going to get warnings, how they're going to disseminate those warnings to their staff and students in the middle of the day when they have activities going on. I've also visited every single school at some point in the last 5 years and looked at where they're sheltering students and offered any kind of suggestions to maybe better places they could be sheltering, or if they're doing a great job, then we've just said that too. So we've stepped through every school. I've also given a presentation to all of your transportation department. So everybody who drives a bus has attended a weather safety presentation on what they should be looking for, safe practices. And then also they're in a unique position to see kind of the different kind of clouds while they're driving, and they're out exposed to the elements in a different way than maybe teachers might be when they're teaching in the classroom. So I've talked to them, and I've talked to representatives from all of your schools about weather safety in general. So the staff, Brian Haley has kind of initiated this process along with Kyle Winnett at your local emergency management and Matt McBride. So I want to recognize their work to get this whole process going, because it's not mandatory. This is something that they just wanted to do, something extra. So I'm happy to officially recognize White County as being storm ready, White County School District as being storm ready. So you can come on up. If you want to come on up, we'll get a photo too. So I appreciate all the hard work that they've done, and I think that you guys should be very proud of the work that they've done, and all of your principals and your staff for everything that they've done to become more prepared. It doesn't make you storm proof, but it does hopefully limit the kind of damage that could be done in storms and makes people more aware.
Can we get a round of applause for that effort? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Whited and Mr. Haley, Mr. McBride. Thank you for seeing the importance of that and doing what can help our district be more prepared to protect the interests of the students. So, yes, okay, gotcha. All right. So, any other comments from board members? Okay, next item on our agenda is approval of volunteer coach, but that coach has requested to be removed from that position because of taking a job that would not allow for their participation. So that item, we will move past that and then go to our next item on our agenda, which is number 8, and that's the approval of the travel of the White County High School girls basketball team to Los Angeles, California, December 25th through 31st. That request was provided to you in your packet, so I will open the floor for comments if there's any comments on that. Otherwise, we can entertain motions.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have any second?
I'll second.
So a motion by Mr. McDonald, second by Ms. Fowler. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, where are they getting the funding?
They derive funding internally from their own program. They raise money through the program to pay for it.
Just curious, what's this going to cost?
I don't know what the final ticket item was. They work with their athletic director, and the school will find a bookkeeper to fund it.
Don't get me wrong, I'm proud they can afford to do it. Wish them the best of luck.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, have a motion and a second. To any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is item number 9 is the approval of continuity of services planned addendum. So This continuity of services, this is tied into our ESSER 3 monies. And we have, this is a plan that was put back in place back when ESSER 3 monies came about. And we have to make an addendum to this policy, or excuse me, this addendum to this plan annually in order to stay compliant for the use of the unspent funds. So that policy was, that addendum was, plan and addendum was presented to you in your packet. You have any questions for our director regarding that plan and the addendums? Mr. Stromberger, there was nothing in that plan that would have changed from what we previously approved.
So I may call on Ms. Felton to kind of speak to this, but this has a lot to do with how we return to school after COVID, and in the events that we had to do anything like that again, so we have to keep that policy up to date. But Ms. Felton, do you want to speak to that and add any to that?
For the contact tracing, that's not done within the school anymore. It's handled like any other illness. There's no specific COVID policies or procedures for that. Another thing that's changed is the diagnostic screening. We did have a grant to provide COVID testing at the schools, but those funds ran out last year, was the end of that grant. So now we just refer people to the health department or their primary care physician. That was the only revisions to the whole plan.
But this is a plan that has been in place for
Since September of 21.
Right. So when it came out for the ESSER 3. So other than just making modifications to in those areas, the plan and that plan is, this would just be an addendum to that plan as we continue on. So any other questions for our director or Miss Felton while she's here? Okay. Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion for approval of the continuity of services plan addendum. Have a motion by Ms. Haston. Have a second? Second by Ms. Stone. Discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is approval of our ESSER 3 public plan for the remaining ESSER 3 funds. That information was provided to you in your packet, and so that would be our continuation, our planned use of these remaining funds. So, Mr. Stromberger, I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions that you might have on this. And again, is there any material changes to this?
No. Again, it's listed in the descriptions there. The majority of this money, there's a small amount of about $170,000 that goes towards all core tutoring, which is high dosage, low ratio tutoring. That goes on throughout the school year. It lists how that tutoring is going to be outlined, but the vast majority of this money, as you can see, is outlined in the budgetary page. It's over $4.6 million, which is going directly to the Bondy-Croft project.
Okay. So that budget summary was included in your packet for the use of the remaining funds of that from ESSER 3.
And I guess just my question for this, and Chad, you might be the one to answer this. This is just basically a housekeeping for us, for the state, correct? For them to know what we're going to spend the ESSER money that the government gave to this school district. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is item.
Hold on, back up. I don't think we had a motion or a second on that.
We didn't?
I don't think so. I think it was the.
You didn't have us? Okay, all right.
So I'll make the motion that we approve that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Motion by Mr. McDonald, second by Ms. Haston. Getting ahead of myself. All right, we had discussion. We'll vote officially now.
Yeah.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is per policy 5200, we have consideration of hearing officers. Hearing officers are non-partial representatives who can be pulled in the case that we have a situation or that would arise from an employee, and they would be able to come in if there was concern about a ruling on any matters of discipline or whatnot, or policy pertaining to our employees, that they would be able to have a hearing officer come in and basically serve as a mediator between the district and the employee. So we have to provide for the district a list of 3, and that what you have been provided with tonight in your packet, item number 11, dismissal hearing officer list. That is a list of attorneys throughout the state that could be called upon, or we could consider as we have to have 3, and to give our staff the option to select from the 3. And so our attorney Scott Bennett provided us with a list. So we will need to select 3, and this list is a list of those that give us options, because I don't think something that we would probably need some references to consider. And so this list of hearing officers are people that have served in this capacity, can serve in this capacity, and we can choose our hearing officers list of 3 from those that have been provided. So that's what this is for. We just need to have that in place for our staff in the unfortunate event that a hearing was required, that they would be able to choose from a list, and our list would consist of three potential hearing officers. So I'll pause and give board members a chance to ask questions, provide clarity as best we can.
I guess my question is the list that's provided, are we going to approve the entire list? And then the person who is seeking that, can they pick from that list, or how does that work?
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, this list was provided by the TSBA. This is a group of attorneys across the state who are willing to participate in this process. It's just up to this board to decide which 3 that they want to choose. So if I can give a recommendation, it would be that the board would recommend 3 attorneys, and then once we get confirmation that they are willing to participate or partner with White County, then you would approve that in a subsequent meeting. But any of these attorneys on this list are willing to participate in this form or fashion. Of course, our attorney is on there as well, but that he wouldn't be a choice as being impartial, already representing the board. Either is his partner, Mary DeCamp, but all the others would be eligible for selection.
Are you familiar with any of them other than those 2?
I'm familiar with Randall Bennett.
Yeah, Randall
Was a member of TSBA for several years on staff there.
Yeah.
If it's for what it's worth, I'm familiar with Randall Bennett, Sam Jackson, and Chris McCarty. All have done lots of seminars and things at TSBA, and you all may have seen some of them. I mean, I would feel confident discussing this with any of them. If it pleased the board, I would be glad to reach out to them, but by no means am trying to guide that. It's completely up to the board. This is just the list of people that are willing to serve in that capacity.
Would I take it that we're looking from the list from East and Middle and not in West Tennessee, I'm assuming? That's too far away?
Well, I think all those are ones that have participated in this before, but it may be that if we chose someone from West Tennessee, they may not be willing to drive. It would, not saying they couldn't be asked. Pardon?
They may be able to participate electronically, but.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, if electronics an option.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for him to reach out to Chris McCartney, Sam Jackson, and Randall Bennett to see if those three would be available.
Okay, so have a motion to reach out to Sam Bennett, I'm sorry,
Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson,
His name really is Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson, Randall Bennett, and what was the third one?
Chris McCarty.
Chris McCarty. Okay, have a motion,
I'll second that.
okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And we're not approving these, we're just motioning to reach out to those three to see if they would be interested in serving in that capacity.
Mr. Chairman, is this the same Randall Bennett that's given us advice in the past about baccalaureate service, about throwing the director's evaluation out the first year? Or is it a different one?
I have no recollection, Mr. Howard.
Nobody
This
knows?
Randall Bennett he was a former legal counsel and step under the head of TSBA.
Or is that Scott Bennett?
Scott Bennett is the
Bennett.
one you're referring to, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Very good.
So these individuals have no connection to White County, our district. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Again, all we're doing is just, and I'm ask that either the director or myself will reach out to those to see if they have interest and bring it back to the next board meeting. All right, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the district update, and that would be item number 12. That would be Mr. Drumbarger.
All right, thank you. Before I begin, I'm going to ask Mr. Murray, as we have come on his campus tonight, I'm going to ask him to give a quick update from White County Middle School, and I'll be glad to follow up with some information from the district. So thank you, Mr. Murray, for letting us be here tonight, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so we just want to welcome everybody here. We thank you for coming. Just a few numbers, it's education. And so our major discipline referrals are down slightly for the month of August, and then it's trending that way again for September. We are providing extra tutoring help to over 200 students through our All-Core and ATSI programs. We're averaging about 28 students a week showing up to morning tutoring on their own. And also we are currently working with TVA to help reduce our energy consumption, and we've applied for a grant. So that's basically where we're at 5 weeks in. Long, tough year. We do appreciate your support, both past, present, and future.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Murray? Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Board members, your personnel report is in your folders, all the employment transactions. We've had a couple of openings here recently due to some health concerns, but those are posted and we plan to have those filled very soon. Overall, we're fully staffed and operating smoothly from that standard. Safety, our threat assessment teams have been active in addressing issues as they arise. Thankfully, no serious threats have been determined, but every situation is taken very seriously and handled thoroughly. We continue to encourage students to handle their differences properly, and we're working on communication with parents about the dangers of making threats to others, especially when at school. Academically, I just returned from the State Superintendent's Conference, and I'm very concerned about the Department of Education's plan to assign letter grades to each individual school. This was passed into law by the General Assembly back in 2017, but was never implemented due to COVID and then test score delays. It is set to happen this fall, and yet the TDOE has not yet released the formula on how these grades will be calculated. Superintendents across the state are very concerned that schools with higher rates of poverty will be unfairly affected by this grading system and the fallout that may ensue. So there's more to come on this subject very soon, something we're very concerned about. Athletics, football is rapidly approaching the midpoint of their season, while other sports like soccer and volleyball have their sights on tournament time. Elementary basketball games are underway. They're playing some tonight. Bonnycroft is playing their home games at the opponent's school due to construction. Speaking of Bonnicroft, the first floor walls have been erected, and the next big step will be to set the floor trays and pour the concrete for the second floor. That will be happening very soon. Mr. Alley is getting some quotes for the redesign of the road sign, and that improvement would take place near the end of the project. He's also coordinating the installation of new gym bleachers as part of this renovation as well. The parking lot will be restriped to include as many parking spaces as possible once the final layer of asphalt is laid. Our enrollment numbers are just shy of 3,850 students, and this is still below our pre-COVID numbers. Our schools have made good use of our behavior programs and alternative programs in order to establish orderly learning environments, and once again, we have survived Fair Week. Believe it or not, we're only 3 full weeks away from fall break, but our schools will be busy teaching and learning in the meantime, and Ms. Haston will have more school-specific updates later in this meeting, but for now, that completes the director's report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stromberger. Any questions to the director?
I have several I just wanted to follow up with, and because I'm very proud of the addition that Bonnicroft's having up there, and throughout the process right there, I've just brought suggestions, and Mr. Stromberger has just bounced on those. Concerning the road sign, can you go into more detail about that? Is it going to be a effort between the fire department and the school system about the old sign? Is it going to be replaced? Is it going to be enhanced? Is it going to be electronic? What can we say right now about the road sign?
Yes. We're in the process of discussing that. We've discussed with the fire department. Mr. Alley's had conversations. We had an initial quote that the fire department made, which was really, really high. And so I have not seen that and laid eyes on that, but we're working with them to have a joint effort to redesign that sign in something that look nice and certainly tie into the look of the new school. So right now we're just brainstorming on, we're going to rebuild the whole thing, or we're going to use the foundation and electricity that's already there, but certainly money is an issue, and that will come out of contingency, most likely in the money that's left over at the end of the project, should there be money left over. So we are in those conversations.
And extra parking, Mr. Stromberger, I've had several people that, either staff and people coming in to park. You know, we understand this year out here is going to be hard to do with all the construction. But you made the statement that all that was already, if I understood that statement correctly, that was already paid is what's going to be repaid. Is there any potential in leveling off and adding additional parking up there, like either on either side of the road or up on the high part, or any of that being discussed?
So what is currently going to be repaved will actually give them more parking places than they had before once it's done, and once the portable classrooms are being removed. There's not any plan to expand that currently. That they will have more space than they had before, but there's no plans to expand beyond what is currently paved. But we did create some more parking area in the back as well. That'll give them some more spaces. There's not quite as much room as it looks out there because of the septic's field lines. So it's not as simple as just paving in that area. But we're certainly open to looking where some other areas that might be available for paving later on.
Thank you. One other alternative people asked is, can they widen the road? Because ball game night and special event night, they park down that one lane road right there, and then all of a sudden it gets more and more narrow and gets hard for people to meet coming and going. Has there been any talk about widening that road?
Widening the driveway?
Yes.
No, I don't think it's being widened any. I mean, they are replacing with new lighting so that you can see better. Ball game nights are always a challenge. I just remind people that it's 5 nights of the year. So we just try to do our best on those nights to make things accommodating. And so we can work with the administration and with the SROs to make sure that we're parking safely, that people can have good egress, but there's not anything in the plans to widen that necessarily.
And for gym seating, I know we discussed possibility of widening the gym and making the gym larger, and everybody seems to just say for 5 games. But if you're going to buy new bleachers to begin with, has there been any looking into different types of bleachers that would give more seating? Any thinking out of the box there?
We're going to put as many bleacher seats in there as possible, and they'll be newer, and I'm not sure of the design, if that's gonna provide more seating or not, but it is a difficult gym to look at as far as expansion. There's really nowhere to expand that gym, especially now that we've built the road around the service road around the back to create the addition. Again, it's more than 5 nights if you add in celebrations for, say, 5th grade or kindergarten graduation, that sort of thing. But those are usually things that we can schedule around if we break those events up and to get fewer people in one place at one time. So there are new bleachers scheduled to go in, but I can't guarantee there's going to be more seating based on those improvements.
Sorry to take so much time, but, that is a big project, and the main project we've got going on in the county right now, but deserves discussing, the playground that's being tore up parts of it, and then what all different organizations add to the playground up there. I mean, in other words, do the PTA, if it's called PTA, PTO, do they help sponsor the playground equipment? Is there fundraising from grants available for the playground equipment that can be helpful, because it's a needy project also.
Yes.
What can I do to help? Can I help organize anything up there to help with the playground?
So playgrounds are normally endeavors that PTOs work with the schools themselves to raise money. We have another school that's working right now with Mr. Markham's office and they can work off of state contracts to purchase that equipment. Cassville did that several years ago. They got a grant and had new equipment installed. So those are normally partnerships that happen with the PTOs and the schools themselves. It's incredibly expensive, so we want to be fair to the whole district. So if we look at one school, then we're looking at other schools, and those can be big ticket items. So when we've installed schools, we've built new schools, we've helped them with the playground to get started, and then traditionally that's been turned over to the school for improvements and enhancements. With the exception of general maintenance and things like that. Doesn't mean that's what it has to be, but that's the way it's been done traditionally.
Is there anything I can be doing extra?
From my opinion, other than discussing with the principal or maybe the head of the PTO about what their plans are, and then from that angle, they can let you know what their intentions or their needs are.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Director regarding the district update? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 13, request for use of Central View.
I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure we address Mr. Howard had asked about enrollment numbers, and I did speak to that briefly, but I want to make sure you didn't have any other questions about that.
Would you have any question on that, Mr. Howard?
No, I saw it in my packet. And, I thank you for that information. I'll just be absorbing it later.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, then we'll move on to our next item on our agenda, and that's the request for use of Central View property. Mr. Howard had some questions on that, or a request.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is coming straight from the Friends of Central View School and Fire Department down there. Last year they requested to use the Central View Fire Hall for a meeting, and of course in talking with Matt hadn't left, talking about how big it might be. They didn't know for sure, but they might be needing some of the parking spaces around the school right there. And then what I was told when that Matt said that you need to call the director of schools to get his approval for using Central View property for parking, that this organization was told no. And so I don't want to see that happen again, and that's why I put it on the agenda. We have policies after policies where we're supposed to work with communities, and there's nothing that stops from the use of any facility at that time, inside, outside, that we should stop the community. So there's nothing here that says that the community couldn't use, that I see, couldn't use it. And so I just want to make sure that they're available too when they set a date, whenever they need to, that they could use the facilities to park. And I saw in our agenda right there, our packet, where there's a form to fill out. Is that correct? Is that what the form was for?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if I'm to understand, they fill this form out properly, if there's, anything needs to be paid, they can pay that and they can use the facilities, is that correct?
I don't have any objections just to them using the parking lot. I don't remember denying anybody use of the parking lot. But inside the building, I do have issues with, because we don't have any utilities on. There's lots of hazards in there. It's not safe. The bathrooms are not functioning, and so inside the building. But I have no issues with them being on the property.
Okay, so what would be their first step?
Just to fill out, I put the form in there, that just fill out the form to request the use. And depending on who's using that, there is a fee schedule, but we can look at that and determine if there's a fee necessary, depending on if it's a government agency or a school group. There are rules and policy for that. But I just like to have the form so we have the appropriate documentation. We know who's down there using it at what time.
So, board, we should understand that the policy 3206 speaks to the use of school facilities, and they also speak to facilities, and they refer those requests to the principal. Since we have taken that school out of our operating facilities, there is no principal there, so don't know if we need to
refer that to me.
Change policy, but I think it should be default that those requests would go to the director of schools, and that they would follow the same process as what they would for a request for any other facility. So does that seem logical to the board? Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else regarding item number 13? Okay, item number 14, again, Mr. Howard, Teacher Advisory Board.
This was brought up here a while back when there was an issue, and I've tried to address it at that time that I think would be the best interest for relationships all the way around, since, this is supposed to be anonymous and that they're supposed to have their answers that would be answered, correctly, that, it'd be a good time for school board members to stay in touch with their schools, and this would be a good direction for them to go, that their questions be directed to the school board members. Well, for whatever reason, it didn't pass, so I would like to see that we at least get the opportunity to answer anything directed to any school board member, and that we also see all the questions and all the answers. Now, from the director of schools, when I brought this up, I was directed to policy. Is there anywhere in policy that it requests or directs attention to Teacher Advisory Board? That's my first question.
Is that a policy?
Is there anything in policy that directs the Teacher Advisory Board?
My understanding that the Teacher Advisory Board was established by staff in previous administrations, and that is an opportunity for staff to come together and provide a conduit for them to get questions answered, as you would in any organization try to provide a conduit for employees to have their questions answered. So that's my understanding. That's something that's been in place for a while. It's not something that, from the board standpoint, that is really of concern to us on how they go about getting information and asking questions and getting feedback, because it's specifically to that staff and how they term that. So it's really just a tool for the staff, and not something that haven't found anywhere in policy where we said, hey, there has to be a teacher advisory board. It's something that they have the prerogative to go and establish themselves, and how they steps they take to communicate internally.
Mr. Chairman, how do I start this here? First of all, if there's no policy, then we don't have to make any policy changes. All it takes is a simple motion and a second and pass it. If we have something directed directly to a school board member from Teacher Advisory Board, how do we answer that? Because I have gone to the school and tried to answer that directly to the liaison between the Teacher Advisory Board right there, and they said, well, we really can't because we just answer to Mr. D. So I want to ask you this question right here. This is a question on the teacher, the advisory board question. Who should one contact about school board member Dwayne Howard? There have been several questions about his residency. Is there any way for him to offer proof that he is living in District 4, the district he was elected to represent? It appears to those with any semblance of sanity that he is exploiting those citizens to further his agenda of reopening Centerview School, Centerview Elementary. Excuse me. How do I answer that? If I can't talk directly to the teacher advisory board, how do I answer that? Because I can't pull the person out. They're, anonymous. This is not the first time this question's come up either.
So I spoke to that and I sent you my response and I said, I told them to call you.
Well, they're not going to do that.
Well, I can't help you, sir. But I told them exactly what you want was directly talk to that person.
All this is a slanderous remark right here. So how do I answer that?
Well, the same way that I do when people slander me, I speak directly to them.
You have the opportunity right now, Mr. Howard, to speak to the public and get it on record. I mean, that's one way you could do it. It was communicated back your request and have them reach out, and that's, it's their prerogative, but I mean, you can speak to it now or.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we took so much time tonight, because of the request for updates on the road signs, extra parking, gym seating, playground. If we remember correctly, I've brought all these issues up and discussed and offered suggestions, and that's all I can do with it, okay? Until someone gives me direction that I can go other places. But I don't know what I'm doing wrong, except this is a personal attack. Look, I understand. There's always going to be somebody that is not empathetic to what we do here, okay? There's always going to be somebody upset. There is. And I understand that. If they want to disagree with what we're doing right here, just present their items whatsoever. But this is a personal attack. This is, there's proof right there that I'm doing all I know to do for Bondy Cross School. Yes, and we've already discussed in policy tonight, policy 1.2021, that we represent all the communities, all the schools in this entire county right here. So there's nothing wrong with me bringing up things about Centerview School too. If there was issues or things that I thought need to be addressed with, say, for example, Dole, and Mr. McDonald didn't want to do it, I'd do it. Or Caspel, Ms. Stone didn't want to do it, I'd do it, okay? So to say that this is not going to stop if I can't address it.
Mr. Howard, I don't know what to say other than, you have the opportunity to address here. There was a question in your residency, so if you're living on the mountain, then that would be an easy.
So I have authority to request the administrator to give me some time right there to address these things personally to who? To the administrator? To the principal?
Yeah, start with the principal. Start with the principal.
To the advisory board, from
you could take the.
How do you know it was from Bondycroft?
I don't.
Okay, he answered the question. You got a copy of it on our last update, and he told them that you're welcome. Mr. D answered the question. You're welcome to contact Mr. Howard at any of the school board members directly. Our email address is public. It's on the website. So they can email you directly. That's why they want to remain anonymous, because they don't want to have their name dragged through the mud.
Well, I'm not going to drag anybody's name through the mud. Why are they dragging mine? But this is not the first time this has happened either. So, Mr. D, did you respond to him the first time?
Yes, I responded this way at every time. I don't know where you live. I don't make judgments on that. So I just told them to contact you, and I gave various ways in which they can do that.
Very good. Very good. So I can call Bondycroft and make an appointment to go talk to him.
How do you know it's from Bondycroft?
I don't. That's the only place I know where to start. They make comment that it appears that those of any semblance of sanity that he is exposing those citizens to further his agenda to reopen. That I'm using District 4 that I was elected to do something different.
Well, what I'm suggesting, I shared that information with you. If you want to provide a statement that I can share back to the advisory board, I'll be glad to do that. So it gets back to the person that had sent it in, because I don't know who that is either.
well, what statement would qualify? I can sit here and tell you right now, I've lived in District 4 for the last 12 years.
Well, I don't care. You're asking me, how do you reply? I'm telling you how you could reply back. I can't tell you what to write.
I'd just like to find something that would be sufficient for this person right here. Because I don't think it's someone that has a legitimate gripe. I think that they're just being ginned up by somebody.
Well, I can tell you this, we're all in politics, we're all a political candidate, and we're all gonna do something that's not gonna make everybody happy. At some point in our tenure, somebody's gonna get mad at me, and I've had it plenty of times. It's just.
Have you ever had these false accusations about you?
Yes, I have.
Yes,
I have.
Actually, yes, I have too.
Yeah, sure did.
Okay.
Sure did.
How'd you handle it?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Because it was fairly recently.
Okay. Good deal. Maybe we need to have a discussion on how to handle this.
Mr. Howard, I think you
So,
have prerogative to handle it how you.
Here's still my motion. That the school board members receive all the teacher advisory board committees communications, questions and answers.
You got it.
All of them.
It
Not
was-
just,
You got them right here in an email every Saturday.
we get every one of them.
They don't. You meet what? Once a quarter? Once a month?
I got 10 pages of questions and answers right here in an email that he sent on 9/9 with questions and answers that were answered by him, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Kennard, Ms. Fresh, and your name's it's leaving me, Ms. Butcher. They're all answered right here.
Where are they?
Where are they?
They were an
They
attachment
were
to
an
last
attachment in an
Saturday,
email on
Saturday's email.
9/9.
Oh, yes.
It's not in your Google Drive, it's in
Yes,
an
I seen
email.
that, that's right.
Oh, it's in
Yes.
the.
It's in the
okay, I see
weekly
it.
email.
Yes, I did see that. I thought y'all meant they was typed out.
On 9/9.
9/8,
9/8.
9/8.
Yeah, 9/8.
yeah, 9/8.
Yeah, and thought that was the direction we went last time we talked about this subject, was keeping us apprised of what the district was, questions and concerns they had and how they were being responded to. So
Well, if you don't know, you better ask.
How often do you meet with the teacher advisory board?
Monthly.
Yes, because I read these through these.
In our the last meeting, our conversation that I understood was that, I was trying to protect the confidentiality of teachers and the trust that they have, that then when they're emailing me, they're emailing me. But then we also agreed that when it involved a board member or the board itself, that I would inform you of those questions, which I did in this case.
Well, I just want it to be well noted that all our good teachers, Buddy, I'm trying my best to support every one of them. I don't care what school they teach at. Our students, I don't care what school they're at. Our support staff, that I wish they would allow me to answer this.
Okay.
All the decades that I've been, I've been attacked. I've had things told wrong, but none like this.
okay, all right. So any more questions regarding the teacher advisory board? And we'll move on to our next item. All right, item number 15. That's the update on the 8th grade ELA writing prompt. Mr. D.
So, as we know, in early August, one of our middle school teachers assigned a writing prompt that was distasteful and inappropriate. Upon learning of this assignment, I immediately contacted the school principal, the curriculum supervisor, and our school board attorney to begin working on a response. We made plans to hear parent concerns at the approaching school board meeting, where I apologized to students, parents, and the school community on behalf of the school leadership. I also set up a meeting with the parents and the teacher where they could voice their concerns. The teacher issued an apology letter to all of her students and parents. She received verbal warnings and academic counseling. All the White County principals were asked to remind their teachers to employ the prescribed curriculum and grade level standards. We've been contacted by no other complainants since that time. and the district considers this matter closed. That's my update.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have comments.
Okay.
On the floor.
Sure, Mr. Howard.
This is one of the things I added on the agenda. My question in line item 3 was when I added to the agenda, follow-up report on 8th grade writing assignment with teacher available for questions and answers. Here's a response I received from Mr. Dromberger. I have received a request for items to be placed on the agenda for the school board meeting 9/14/23 and will be present with, and will present them to the chairman for his consideration. I also had an attachment for this that I added for the policies. If you have any questions about the particular situation, I'll be glad to speak to you personally. However, I will not require the teacher, I'll back up. However, I will not recommend to the chairman that item 3 be added as the district considers this matter closed. If you have questions about this particular situation, I'll be glad to speak to you personally. However, I will not require the teacher in question to appear in manner which you described. If you would like to discuss this, please reach out to me at your convenience. And I gave a response. Where is it? I got my paperwork situation. And I said, with all due respect, Mr. Director Kurt Dromberger, I do not agree with this line item 3 being left off our agenda. Additionally, the 8th grade teacher needs to present herself for the school board personally at the next meeting for questions and answers about her 8th grade writing assignment. I should not have to remind you of policies allowing the school board members to add to the agenda. The director of schools has no authority to stop requests to agenda due to policy 14403. Discussed last meeting. Even chairman has no authority to reject items to be placed on the agenda by board members. And here's the last response that I got, and it was, to Mr. Howard, a board member may have something added to the agenda, but they do not have the authority to summon an employee to appear before the board, respectfully. And I appreciate all those respectful correspondences right there. It went from, we're not going to have it on the agenda, to, yeah, we'll have it on the agenda, to board members don't have the authority to call a teacher to this board for answer. And I agree 100%. School board members don't have that authority. You know, I understand the hierarchy system here. But do you, Mr. Director? I understand
Yes,
that
sir.
I don't have any authority over any of the teachers sitting right here. But this board right here has one employee, and that's you, Mr. Director. And that anything we request goes directly straight to you. Now, I don't know what a lawyer would say about opportunity of you ignoring or, in my opinion, being insubordinate about bringing that teacher before us for question and answers. But I'm at that point of finding out.
Mr. Howard.
Because I have the floor. It would be the same thing as if you, Mr. Director, would look at Mr. Murray wherever he's at and say, Mr. Murray, we want that teacher present at this meeting tonight. And Mr. Murray say, no, I'm not going to do that. What do you think would happen? Well, we all know the answer to that right there. I'm looking for what the community wants. The community wants answers to this. This is not a closed issue right here. When it went all the way to Nashville and got on the Nashville News, when it's gone all the way to Knoxville, or not Knoxville, Kentucky up there, and been on a radio station up there, that I had friends in Carthage calling me and say, Dwayne, did that really happen in White County, Spark, Tennessee? I can't believe something like that happened right there. I'm still answering for it. It's still not closed. It's still an issue that needs to be addressed. That teacher needs to give an account for what she did and why she did it. For me personally, if I was a director of schools, upon confirmation of what you asked the students to write about right there, she'd been suspended. And then immediately there would have been a study, or whatever you call it, evaluation, whether she'd been fired or not. So my question, Mr. Director, why are you defending her? Why are you protecting her? I'm protecting all our teachers in this county that have worked hard and slaved hard for decades, that have not done bad decisions. Why did they have to go through this teachers right here and still no answer? What do you tell these teachers that have done that for decades and worked hard right there and never made a mistake, but we have to live with the rest of it there because there's not going to be any consequences. But what do you tell the next person that makes something just as bad or worse? Well, you didn't do anything to the other person.
So, Mr. Howard, I think our director has responded to how that was handled. It was handled at his discretion. It appears that based on the comments that were provided to us as a board, that they handled that in an orderly fashion through the proper hierarchy. Just for some of our new board members and maybe the public to have interest on this, the teacher discipline is at the discretion of the director. That can include various things up to and leading to suspension, but the board would not get involved in any personnel matters until it rose to that point and appeals were made to the board. There are several steps that have to be made before the board has any input on teacher discipline. For the employees, they have the tool for policy 5501, and that's appeal for grievances. An employee can file a grievance against anyone in the district, including the board, and that's why we talked about the hearing officers tonight. They also have staff and have rights and responsibilities laid out in 5600 that defines what the staff should expect from the district. So with that being said, Mr. Howard, we have no right and no authority to call a district employee to appear before the board, because that would be an infringement on their rights as stated in policy. So that the director followed policy as he should have with respect to the teacher. The parents that had concern about that assignment, that, as the director said, that was addressed, and we have received no other comments, complaints about this matter from anybody that was directly affected by that assignment. So I think the district, from that standpoint, made known the action that was taken by our director and the administration, and I think with the apology offered by the teacher, which was sincere in its writing. I think that as the director said, I think we should consider this matter closed from the standpoint of that incident and how that took place. And glad that those that were affected were satisfied with the solution or the outcome that took place. So that is.
That was for again.
If you can make it brief, we have more items to cover.
Yes and no. Okay. I didn't go to that teacher. I don't even know who that teacher is, really. I didn't go to that teacher and demand them to come here. I didn't have that authority. I didn't even go to Mr. Murray over there and say, Mr. Murray, you need to come here. You need to have that teacher here for answering questions. I went to the only person that this board employs and asked him to have her here.
That he doesn't have the doesn't have the authority or responsibility to submit to that request.
He has the authority over every employee here. If it's not a legal request, if it's not something personal, if it's something that the community is in interest of, he ought to supply it.
Mr. Howard, I'll answer that. You can request that of me, but the answer was no. I'm not going to bring your wife, Mr. McDonald's wife, or anybody's wife or husband into the situation. I'm your employee. If you don't like the way it was handled, you can handle it with me, but you get me. You don't get the teachers. I can tell you, too, that the teachers are not happy about your request. I've talked to the teacher advisory board, and several of them were upset. They feel like you're coming after them and attacking teachers, and this is their words, not mine. And this teacher is very apologetic. She made a mistake. She made a bad mistake, and she's apologized for it, and she's paid for it pretty vigorously on social media, and other people that have gone on radio shows and made her look bad. But I like to think that we have compassion in this community, that we have forgiveness in this community. She owned up to it. She never shied away from it. She met with every parent that called and wanted to meet with her and made amends. And we're trying to move forward as a district. If you don't like the way it was handled, that's fine. You can bring that before the board, and if the board wants me to face some sort of punishment for that, then that's fine. But that's my stance, is that we made a mistake. We owned it. We apologized for it. We're moving forward. And beyond that, you just have to, I guess the board will have to deal with me.
One final comment. You said I'm not empathetic.
I did not say that.
I'm empathetic to every other teacher that we have in the school system. They shouldn't have had to go through it. And with no disciplinary action that I see to this teacher right here. What do you say to our other teachers? My support's with them. You know, and to say that they're mad at me for trying to support them, I don't believe that either. So, okay, and another question right there. What can this school board not overrule you with? Is there anything in this school board that cannot overrule you?
Sir, you have policy. You can read that policy and see what the roles of the board are and what the roles of the director are.
Well, all I asked was a simple question.
And
that was
I pretty succinct answer.
All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda, budget amendments and transfers. We discussed this in committee, our committee meeting at 5 o'clock. We went over those items included in your packet. And for summary, and we can discuss if needed, but summary were these receipt of federal funds that we're going to support our after school programs. That those funds have finally arrived, so we're getting those entries made, and then also going in and putting entries in for carry forward funds from 2023 school year. And so that was the discussion and the amendments that were in our discussed during our policy committee meeting. Any other comments on those amendments that were presented? Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the amendments and transfers that were presented in committee.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. McDonald. I have a second by Ms. Howard. Any questions?
Ms. Howard.
I'm sorry. Did I say Ms. Howard?
Haston.
Ms. Haston. I'm sorry. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is per policy 1404, public comment. We have a sign-up sheet that's provided to our public before each meeting. Give them an opportunity to sign up and speak to an item that's on our agenda. We have one individual who's requesting to speak tonight. That's Dale Walker. The agenda item discussed is the teacher assignment, which I'm going to assume is the referring to the ELA writing prompt. Mr. Walker, recognize you at this time, and Mr. McDonald, if you would. Mr. Walker has 5 minutes.
Can I use your podium, Mr. Murray?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Pastor Dale Walker, President of Tennessee Pastors Network. I reside in White County, and I was contacted in regards to what has been referred to by some of the media by the murder assignment. And the director made a comment, some people got on a radio show, and Mr. Director, I think you were probably alluding to myself being probably on that radio show. And I was on that show, and I spoke, and I was very disappointed to hear about what was called the murder assignment by some of the media. You know, Senator Kennedy this week read some of the stuff in the Senate about what's going on in books in our schools. And by the way, the Lemon Law has been struck down. I think it would be great for the school board to reinstitute prayer before school meetings. I would encourage you all to take a look at that. I go to a lot of public meetings, and I think it would be a good thing to look at. Obviously, this teacher got off of curriculum, and I don't know what your policy says about curriculum, but I think the public would be well informed and well appreciated if you would tell us what the repercussions is when a teacher goes off the curriculum. I can't believe in my mind that the teacher is stating that I didn't intend to kill her, I only meant to hurt her. Now the ghost follows me everywhere I go is in Tennessee curriculum. Now I stood against the hatchet last year, which will be coming up again this year, And I'm thankful that our Tennessee state legislature passed a law that you have to open it up for public comment now. I'm thankful for that. I appreciate that our state legislature did that, because I attempted to come before this board last year about the hatchet and ended up having to go just meet with the governor about it because I couldn't even speak in my own county of getting a request honored. But as a taxpayer in this county, the director mentioned to you that the numbers of the school enrollment are still under pre-COVID. As a taxpayer, we are seeing a massive exodus out of public school because of incidents just like this. That very incident last year of that young girl about the hatchet, that parent removed their child from the school. Why? Because they're tired of instances like this. And as taxpayers, they're hardworking blue-collar workers. They're not in the top per capita of income like the director of the schools is, who's the salary's in the top 1%. I pulled a FOIA on him. Him and his wife both are employed. We have hardworking blue-collar workers out there that deserve a good education program for their children, and not instances like this. I think it would be good for the public to know what action this board is taking for incidents like this not to occur again, for a teacher totally going off the rails and putting something, I mean, this is horrendous. I think most of y'all probably go to church. I wouldn't imagine, surely your pastor would have an issue with a Sunday school teacher doing this. And here we are in public school. Now, I know this isn't Sunday school. We don't expect it to be Sunday school, but we expect the teachers to respect the minds and the well-being of the students. So as a taxpayer, I think we have a reasonable expectation for our teachers to do a better job, because what happens when the parents pull their children out of public school, they're doubly hit. Somewhere along the line, somebody's going to run a bill that the Christian people that don't want this indoctrination is going to get a tax benefit, and this is further money that's going to be taken from the public school, which is going to ratchet up, and I plan on telling the county commissioners this, that it's going to ratchet up the taxes. So the taxpayers are going to carry the burden for incidences like this, all right? Hey, it's great the teacher apologized, but it would be better maybe for, as Mr. Howard said, for her to come and speak to the public and say, hey, yeah, I messed up. Can we forgive? Absolutely. We can forgive. But if a student come in and wrote this kind of paper, wouldn't that student be sent to suspension, in-school suspension? Wouldn't there be some major concerns about going to the dark side there? I mean, the teacher's assignment, didn't mean to kill her, only meant to hurt her. Now the ghost follows me everywhere I go. But I'll close with this. God's assignment is number 6. In God we trust. Our Senator Paul Bailey got that bill passed at the state capitol. I was down there. Has to be posted in every school. God's assignment is, thou shalt not kill. I have to wonder if a teacher did that, would they have been suspended? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Next, we'll move
Pastor
on to...
Walker, for record, sir.
Next, we'll move on to item number 18. That's committee reports. First item in committee report is policy. We had a policy meeting at 5 o'clock today on September 14th. We had 2 policies that came out of committee. One was draft of our student representative policy. That's coming forward and on first reading, where we have a policy drafted specifically for the White County School District. We modeled that after policy that the board thought was worthy of modeling, and that being Germantown. So that's coming out of policy for recommendation for approval. The second one is policy 4700 regarding testing programs, and this applies to the high school, and there are courses listed that if a student comes in and tests out of a program, they would receive credit for that. So those were two policies that came for the out of policy committee for consideration. There is one policy that's going to be coming up in new business because that was discussion. We're going to put that in new business, and that's in reference to policy 12021. So regarding the student representative policy, we will take both of these as separate items to vote on coming out of committee. They do not need a motion or a second. So Any comments on the student representative policy that was discussed tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to see us forego second reading on that since we are, since their term would be September through May, and we already in the month of September. I would like to see us forego the second reading on that so that the high school could go ahead and get that policy into motion and get those students selected.
Okay, have a motion for foregoing second reading on the student representative policy due to timeliness of the matter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Fowler. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving our student representative policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is policy 4700 regarding our testing programs. Again, coming out of committee, doesn't need a motion or a second. Do we have any discussion on our testing program policy? Update to that.
Mr. Young, I missed that. Is this only for high school, or can they test out of like junior high courses?
Just applies to high school. High school courses, if they test out.
A gifted child could jump a grade or two like this.
That's not in this policy, no. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is maintenance report. Ms. Stone.
At Woodland Park, 3 out of 4 compressors on the AC chiller are out. The remaining one worked on and off throughout the hot days. We have to replace those compressors at a cost of $42,000. Moisture continues to be an issue at the school, and we have supplied dehumidifiers to help with the problem there. At Cassville, the septic system has been problematic. We've pumped the system several times this year, and they've cleaned the separator several times, and we believe that it is operating at this point. There is an issue with the fire alarm system continuing to have problems. The high school, new seats in the gym have been installed on the floor level of the visitor side. We are pricing new handicap entrances for the front of the building, and construction has begun on the hitting facility. Middle school, we have a sewer problem for a while, and we are continuing to monitor it. We are replacing stage lighting, which has not worked in some time. The athletic complex irrigation has been having issues as well. At Doyle, lightning struck the AC chiller at Doyle, damaging 3 out of 4 compressors. Approximate cost to fix this is $44,000. There's just general maintenance at Northfield, general maintenance at Finley, and Bondycroft. The first floor blocks are laid. The crew are getting ready to start up with the second floor.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Any questions for maintenance report? Okay, hearing none. We'll go to school improvement. Mr. McDonald's going to pinch hit for Ms. Haston.
Yeah. Bondycroft, we've had a great start to the school year. We've been focused on our student data and making decisions to support each student's growth. Our construction continues, excitement continues to increase with the building progress. At Cassville, what a great start to the school year that they've had. We finished recognizing our first group of students for the month of August for outstanding behavior and performance in the classroom. And as we know in education, we use acronyms. So what does GAPS stand for?
General Accepted Accounting Practices.
All right. Not in education, I don't think so, right?
No, it's Mr. Griffith, what is GAPS? Did we just name that for the replace the IE time, correct?
That is the replacement for IE.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's just to fill in the gaps and learning gaps. It's a period of the day that was already there, what we call intervention and enrichment period, but gaps.
Growth and acceleration progress.
Thank you. Growth and acceleration progress. But we've rebranded that to breathe some fresh air into that period in which we're trying to meet students where they are.
Okay, so our GAPS group have been said that teachers are working intently with their small groups. Basketball also cranks up this week. Go Bees. Doyle's had data team meetings. Is it data or data?
Yes.
Okay. This week to assess the student progress and ensure the students are receiving their appropriate gap time support. We're also have our travel awards next week celebrating our students. At Finley, the school year is well underway. We're halfway through the first 9 weeks grading period, and we have celebrated our students' success thus far. Data team meetings were held last week to assess how our students are doing, and we will continue to focus on our GAPS time to support all students. At Northfield, they're off to a great start as well. We're focusing on our GAP time this year in order to show academic growth and progress. Northfield was also chosen to participate with TVA's Energy Right School Uplift program. If we complete all the tasks, we'll receive $10,000 grant in the spring. Go Huskies. Woodland Park is off to an amazing start this year. We've met several times to identify our students that we need to focus on this year. We've had our first data team meetings and revised several of our groups. At the end of 9 weeks, we're going to recognize students for perfect attendance so far and the achievements on the MAP benchmark testing for the fall. White County Middle School is off to an incredible start of the year. Our dedicated teachers have introduced exciting new math curriculum enhancements, fostering a dynamic learning environment. Additionally, our students are actively engaging in volleyball, football, band, soccer, and cross country, promoting personal growth and a strong sense of community within the school. Go Warriors. And at the high school, we've had a great start to the year, and our students are doing great things and receiving many awards and accolades. Our band just scored a superior at the Marching Band Festival. Our cross country team is having one of the best seasons that they've had in several years. Our FFA program placed first at the state fair and received our first national level 3 in school history. And our own Trip Pinion received the first large school player of the week from the Tennessean. We're preparing for our seniors for the October 3rd ACT administration by providing second block sessions covering all subject areas. Go Warriors. And that is the school report.
All right, thank you, Mr. McDonald. Next on the item is our budget. In absence, Mr. Hickey being here and Mr. Markham, I didn't give you much warning, but we were provided with an update of our current financial standing from this year and compared to next. Everything appeared to be in order, but Mr. Markham, if there's anything you want to add to that report for our enlightenment, please do.
Sure, just a few things to point out. During the month of August, we received our first TISA payment. If you remember, TISA has replaced the BEP, the Basic Education Program. Our first payment was just a little bit over $2.8 billion. This is $481,000 more than our BEP payment in August of the last year. But they've also rolled a lot into that was separate from the BEP, so don't get too excited. But nonetheless, that is there. Sales tax revenues continue to be steady. Expenditures compared to last August, you will notice are more, and that's due to the change in teacher payroll. Beginning with this fiscal year, we pay teachers their first check in August, and historically that first paycheck was always the mid-September. So that's why the August expenditures are up significantly compared to the same period in the prior year. The same thing goes for the benefits, those expenditures as well. You'll notice those are up as well compared to last year. Utility expenditures are tracking down a bit for the month. We think that that's likely due to some timing issues with expenditures there. And then capital outlay expenditures currently are within budget, but are above the prior year, and that's mainly due to the softball hitting facility having an open purchase order for that currently.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Markham. Any questions regarding budget? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, and that's TLN report. Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. About the only thing happening with the legislative news is the general session that Governor Lee called, and there was more than 100 bills that were introduced. To the best of my knowledge, there was only 4 that came out of it. One of the bills was directed to the TBI to submit a report on child and human trafficking that could possibly affect the schools. Another bill was the accuracy and timely report for the county clerks to give the TBI information for that under 72 hours. Another bill to require the Department of Safety to provide for free firearm locks to Tennessee residents upon request. And the last one, the big one, was that more than approximately $200 million has been allocated to things like to mental health agency, public, privacy, higher education, recruit bonuses in mental health professions, to school safety, grant fund to mental health safety net, and behavioral health scholarships, public safety campaigns for safety strategies, and then a bill grant funding for SROs and mental health. $12 million to mental health, $4 million to behavioral health, $50 million from 10 care to mental health agencies, $30 million from prison improvement funding, and no idea yet where all this will land, how much will be the schools, how it will affect our schools later on, but hopefully we will figure it out later. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Howard on the TLM? Okay, hearing none. Next item on our agenda is new business. We have 2 items of new business. New business 1 is changing committee meeting dates and time. That was item Mr. Howard asked to put on the agenda. So Mr. Howard, I'll let you speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know everybody's beating their head against the wall, tired of hearing me talk tonight, but my desire for this right here is just for the school board to be able to be more informed and make better decisions. I suggest that there be a 2-week period between our work and our policy meetings, because we're having more and more information, more work come through policies, and if we ever get into budget and start having meaningful meetings with budget and start understanding what makes up our line items, not just reading the numbers, not just reading what changes. On any given night, we might move $300,000, $500,000, millions of dollars. You know, we made surety for teacher for $4 million tonight. I challenge any school board member to really sit here and explain to me where that money went to, or how it ever got evaluated. Even on our own budget, we're supposed to have a chairman, which is an elected official, involved in creating our budget. I'll ask you, Mr. Chairman, how much input did you put in on the development of our budget this past time?
Same as you, Mr. Howard. Our workshop, we went over that, and was given that information. We had opportunity to comment on that, make suggestions, recommendations, so from that standpoint, served like any other member.
Precisely. So, you know, I understand your point of view, but policy says you're supposed to be involved in that. We didn't have a single elected official that had any input on $41.7 million.
That's not correct, Mr. Howard. We all came together in a workshop and we reviewed the budget. We had ample time to.
I said initial input.
I'm sorry?
You didn't listen. I said initial input.
Okay.
All we got was the rubber stamp. Move on down the line. Sometime, there's going to be a school board sitting right here that refused to be just a formality, and they're going to vote no on a budget.
Okay, I don't consider my input on that budget a formality, so I would disagree with you on that, because I do my homework on those budgets, as I'm sure most all of you do, and I felt like I was well informed to make a decision on that.
Someday there's going to be a majority of school board members sitting here that's going to up and vote no the week before it has to go before the full court of our county right there. And then we're going to do what? Sit here and scramble. So if we was to have this meeting 2 weeks prior to tonight's meeting right here, we could skip a lot of this that we've gone through tonight, okay? We could sit here and hash out things and have plenty of time to do it. We come here at 5 o'clock, we're giving hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of things to do. Sometimes 20 and 40 policies to look over that we've seen for maybe 2 days. And then we're expected to vote on an hour later. It's just designed to set up to be a formality. You know, whether you agree with it or not, that's my desire. Someday we will have a 2 weeks in between right there where we can at least see the information, read the information, study the information, time to evaluate the information, time to talk to some of our constituents, where we can make an informed decision for the betterment of our community.
Not saying I'm in disagreement with that, but that would be something that the board would have to take action on.
Well, I'm too tired and exhausted to try to do anything tonight, but it's just still information that someday is going to happen.
Okay.
Mr. Howard, can I speak? Mr. Howard, I'm a little confused. We've had workshops, and you were on the county commission for how many years? And the last budget meeting, when we came to vote on it, you said you didn't understand. You have all this time frame in between. We come and we look at it. That don't mean you're making a decision that night. We came back another night, stayed several hours. You had several questions, but then when we come back to the meeting, you don't ever know what's going on. So I don't know that an extra week in between is going to give us enough time. I don't know if you're just not evaluating all of it or understanding, but in between that time, you got the chairman and you got Chad, and Chad is excellent at his position. So, and I've told you before, always make that phone call. If there's something you don't understand, make that phone call.
May I answer that, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
All of what Ms. Hastings said right there is after the fact. You know, what I'm saying is that we need to have input. We need to be at the bottom level of it. We need to be understanding how each line item is started. And you question and I bring up my county commission experience, unfortunately, good or bad, okay? Yes, and I've been on budget committee too, where we told over every department that came in, and we told over every line item that they had. That's understanding the budget. That's beginning to knowledge of information out there. And you can't do that. You get a $41.7 million budget handed to you, and in less than 5 days, something like that, vote on it. And that's what we did. We called it a workshop. We called it our budget workshop. We were handed that. Didn't have a single I'll say it again, did not have a single elected official had any initial input on creating that budget. Who created it?
So,
Director of
but
Finance?
the budget was compiled by the director, our Miss Alley, and the school bookkeeper and our finance director. Those three are the ones that put the initial budget together and brought it to us for discussion and ultimately to approval. So at that point, all the elected officials had opportunity to contribute to that budget, and we spent a significant amount of time doing that. And you know, if somebody wants to come up and say this would be a more a different path to consider, that's fine. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to put something down for us to look at. We can't just say, well, we're gonna, if it's meaningful and you say we want to look at the budget this way, then in preparation of that, well, then we just need to have an understanding of what's being asked and how you might go about structurally put that together to follow.
I have one question.
Sure.
Mr. Director, Mr. Drumbarger, with all of your supervisors that are sitting in the room tonight, how many hours do y'all focus on budget when it comes time to budget for secondary, for elementary, for special ed, for food service? Everyone, how many hours does that entail?
It's hard
before it comes to us.
It's hard to put a number on, but we spend 2 full days in budget meetings. We meet with every department head. We meet with every principal. We go through specific needs, from everything to their furniture needs, to their equipment needs, to their personnel staff needs. We sit with every department head and work through that, and then it moves on. It goes back into the process with bookkeeping to get it in a form to get it back to Mr. Markham, and then we come back and meet again as a group long before all that is presented to the board. And I welcome the board. I mean, I look at the fiscal responsibilities of the board as according to policy 1101. The board is welcome to sit in each part of that process. So when we get to budgeting process, if you want to come be a part of that, I'd be glad to welcome you into those meetings. You're glad to sit in any part of that. I'd like to think that I've been fiscally responsible over the past 7 years. There's been no impropriety. There's been nothing to hide. There's nothing to shame. So the board, any board member is welcome to sit in on those conversations. I think I've proven I've been fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money over the past 7 years, and I will continue to do so. And you're welcome to be a part of any part of that process.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So any board member has a recommendation, if we want to consider changing the meeting date time to address policy or budget, then email that information to me, your thoughts, and we'll bring it forward with specifics next meeting or whenever you decide to send that forward. Next item on the agenda, the new business agenda, is land use agreement, and I will ask Mr. Drumbarger to speak to that.
Yeah, just quickly, board members, we have a request from the White County High School FFA program to use some land. They've made an agreement with Jeff Young to use some of his land to cut hay on. We bought new equipment for the FFA program. We have animals at the barn, and he has land that is close to our high school. And Mr. Moore has worked in agreement with him to use his land to cut that hay. We've just had the attorney draw up a simple agreement to give everybody permission to be on the land, and for each to make that kosher, make everybody in agreement there. Same thing with White County Middle School and High School cross country. They actually used our chairman was gracious enough to allow them to use some of his property behind Gillen subdivision to run on and practice. We want to make that official and legal, so we have the same agreement that just allows our faculty and staff to be on that land at certain times and protects the landowner as well. So these are just simple agreements that we wanted to put in place to make sure that everything was legal, that everybody's taken care of appropriately, and we just put these before you for approval tonight to make that happen.
Okay, so we have two land use agreements. Both of those were included in your packet tonight. Given the fact that one of those has my name on it, I'll accuse myself from voting on that one. So we'll do these individually. So at this time, entertain a motion for approval of the land use agreement for Jeff Young for the FFA.
So moved.
All right, motion by Mr. McDonald, have a second by Ms. Haston. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the approval of the land use agreement for Bob Young for the White County High School and White County Middle School cross-country team. I'd entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Ms. Haston, second Mr. Howard. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And Ms. Sims, please make sure the records show my recusal. All right, next item of new business is proposed change to policy 12021. That was discussed in committee, where language was that coming out of committee that we add to in our responsibilities to our community, add an item 6 that says, I will serve as a guardian of public trust and prioritize the needs of my community. So,
Mr. Chairman,
is that, I'm sorry?
interest of my community.
I'm sorry, yes. Spread that one out.
That's what you got in there.
Yes, I will serve as a guardian of the public's trust and prioritize the interests of my community. So that was recommended to add to policy 12021 under the responsibilities, Boardsman's Code of Conduct under our responsibilities community. So that was asked, we were asked to, coming out of committee, to put that in its new line item, and we're asked for a roll call vote on that. So any other discussion on that item being added to our policy?
Gotta have a motion.
Coming out of committee?
New business.
New business, okay. So we'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Howard, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Stone. Now any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, and we'll start with Ms. Haston,
Yes.
Mr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Ms. Stone,
Yes.
Ms. Fowler,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. So motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, that's all of our all of our new business. We don't have any items of old business. The only thing we have is chairman's comments. Have two items. One's just a request for board members to give me feedback on. Reminder of TSBA Fall District Meeting on Tuesday, September 26th from 5:30 to 8 at Trousdale County. So reminder of that. That does not count towards your continuing education points with TSBA or your annual training. So this is, you will not be getting any credit for that. Second item is, given the fact that we have some new board members on that will not be getting their mandatory required training for new school board member orientation, Scott Bennett has agreed to if we choose to come for him to do this, come on Monday, September 25th and go through a little presentation that would be helpful to new board members and old board members alike to just kind of help understand the, give a little orientation for us to consider as far as roles and responsibilities of the board. So I'll just ask you to just confirm with me individually that you can attend, and that time is good, having him offering to do that. So anything else?
Pardon me, Mr. Chairman, where's that at?
It would be here. We would have it at the Board of
And
Education.
that would be for me and Ms. Fallon?
It's open to all the board members.
Do we have a time?
We don't yet have a
Yes,
time.
okay, but it'll be evening.
I would say it's
Afternoon,
6
okay.
o'clock more than likely.
Yes, it'd be evening.
Yeah.
And board members, if you do plan, last call for the fall district meeting, I haven't heard from many of you, but if you plan to go, just give me a yes or no before you go tonight. That would be great, and I'll get that confirmed. Thank you.
Okay. One other announcement is the FFA breakfast and auction is this weekend. So if anybody's able to get out and support that organization, it's a good time to do it. So next item on our agenda is adjournment.
So
Take a
moved.
motion. Motion by Mr. McDonald, second. Second by Ms. Haston. And thank you, public, for your time and attention tonight.